if you haven't read this book, you might want to at least check out the spoiler-free review first, before you finish watching this video. So, click away now if you don't want to get spoiled about this, because I'm going to talk about all the things that I loved and all the things I hated about Star Wars Aftermath, the first book out of the Aftermath series from Chuck Wendig. I'm going to jump all over the place right now because I'm a little bit rushed with this video, to be perfectly honest. I spent way too long editing the spoiler-free review, and I've got to go to work at some point in time, and I want to get both of these up today. So there's going to be some light editing, and I'm going to be having to, check my notes on my phone and stuff instead of writing it out on a nice clean Word document and everything and organizing it properly. But I am looking forward to talking to you about the absurdities that I loved, the things that weren't good. Space diapers! Not frustrated. Anyways, there are... let's see here. Let's start on some of the flaws in the story. Because I want to start about the flaws first, and then we'll move on to the positives. Because I always like to end these videos on I want to end every single one of our videos on a positive note. Because there's always something that you can choose to love about Star Wars. At least that's been my experience. Hence why, shirts and hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of plastic crap, in between all this. And anyways, so story downsides, story negatives, bad bits of the story. I said in the spoiler-free review that I really enjoyed the interludes, but there are one or two that I didn't like. The very first interlude is on Coruscant, and it's about a riot that's taking place after Emperor Palpatine's death. It's kind of like a continuation of that scene that you got at the end of the special edition of Return of the Jedi. But it's like talking about this huge riot, and then they're doing all this stuff, and they're talking about tearing down statues of Palpatine and all that kind of stuff. And that's great and everything, but they're talking about the Monument Plaza, which is like surface level. It's like, cloud heads or whatever. It would be the ne'er-do-wells and the hoity-toity groups of portion of Coruscanti society. So why would they be rioting? I mean, I guess you could say that the aliens are kind of rising up above, like they're just, flooding from the lower levels, like 1313 on up, to riot and do whatever. It's just, to me, it's like seeing a riot about, like, say that they're disgruntled coal miners in West Virginia, and then seeing people that live in that are, work out in Silicon Valley in California rioting. It seemed a little bit strange to me. Let's see here. There was another interlude that I didn't necessarily, actually there's three interludes. Second interlude that I didn't like all that much was one about, this family that's sitting down for dinner, and there's two brothers and a father. The father is neutral. One of the sons is pro-Empire, the other son is pro-rebel. And it's interesting to see kind of the political stuff, but it ends with the father choosing the rebel son after the Empire son and the rebel son end up in a, crazy argument about it. And I don't know. It just didn't mesh all that well. I think that it could have been handled differently. I don't know how, because I'm not an author. Chuck Wendig has written many more books than I ever have or ever will. So I can't really fault him on that. And I wish if I could give you a real reason for it, for not liking it, other than just it didn't work for me. The third interlude that I couldn't stand was the space diaper one. The space diaper one was in between... That was an exchange in between Mercurial Swift and Dengar. Dengar said space diapers in his Dengar-y voice. Space diapers. I've been hunting bounties since before you were in space diapers. What were you thinking? I don't. Chuck, please. I like your work, but man, come on. I can't defend that. Ugh. Blast it. Why? Why do you have to use that? Why? You couldn't have thought of something else. Like, come on, man. It just. Let's see here. What else do we got here? In terms of the main storyline, there were too many false deaths in my opinion. Let's see here. We've got uh, come on, too many false deaths. You've got Wedge kind of dying twice. You've got Nora nearly dying 3 times, and you've got Temmin nearly dying twice. And every single one of those, it's played off like, oh, they're dead, they're gone. You know, like with Wedge, it's, you know, he succumbed to his injuries and fell on the floor, and then like a page and a half later, you find out that no, he's actually okay. Or, you know, the next paragraph, you realize that he's okay. They're all played off like, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, she's dead, she's dead, she's dead, he's dead, he's dead. No, they're not. I got you. And there were too many of those. It got kind of boring after a while. Like I said, Nora nearly died, is played off as being dead 3 times in this. Once in the first act, beginning of the second act, I should say. Another time, during I guess that would be first act, where she's jumping off of a roof, or jumping from rooftop to rooftop, and it's played off like she's gonna die. And then there's a fighter that randomly crashes that she's piloting, and it goes on for probably a chapter and a half, and then also there's an interlude in between it, and it's like and throughout the entire crashing period, she's like, oh man, I really wish if I had this TIE fighter had an ejector seat. And then, you know, like a chapter and a half and an interlude later, she walks into the bar and everybody's like, yay, you're alive. And she's like, yep, I guess that does have an ejector seat after all. Come on. It's just, man, Chuck. Yeah, and then there's Tammin nearly dying too many times. And I'm talking about this more than I should, but every single one of them, except for maybe one of the except for maybe the last Nora one where her starship or space fighter at the very end during the climax of the movie uh explodes basically, or she gets shot down in space. And that one almost got me, but every single other one I'm like, yeah, okay, no, they're not dead. We know that Temmin's in Force Awakens as Snap Wexley, so we know that he survives this entire trilogy, which kind of bothers me because then anytime that he's being threatened in Aftermath excuse me, in Life Debt or Empire's End, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you're not going to be worried about him because you know that he survives, you know. You may be worried about Nora, you may be worried about Sinjir, you may be worried about even Wedge, but you wouldn't be bothered with Temmin because, well, we know that he lives to be The Force Awakens, so he's 40-something by the time The Force Awakens comes around. Let's see here. Bad characters. The main bad character, which you probably picked up on if you watched the spoiler-free review, is Admiral Pandion, or Moff Pandion, who's pretending to be Grand Pandion, and his entire job is to get in Rey Sloane's way when it comes to saving the Empire. And I counted no less than 6 times that he was like, Admiral Sloane, you're sitting on this Super Star Destroyer, and we need to have it, and we bring it in, and then we will stand and fight. And you realize they just killed the Death Star and a Star Destroyer with an A-Wing. You know, they killed a Death Star with a YT-1300 and an X-Wing, and destroyed a Super Star Destroyer, the same one that you're complaining about all the time, with a uh, um with an A-wing, just crashing an A-wing into the bridge. Done. The end. Like, how do you not know that an A-wing or that a Super Star Destroyer isn't going to be useful? Like, I don't understand. It just blast it, Pelion. Temin is a little bit annoying, but he is a 15-year-old boy with all that that's worth. That was abandoned by his parent, or one of his parents was taken away from him at a very young age, and the other parent ran off and disappeared for 3 years to go and fight somebody else's war, in his head. So he's a little bit whiny, and he does lots of stupid crap all the way up until like the last like 20 pages of the novel, and then he finally realizes, you know what, we'll do this. I guess final story complaint is the ending. The ending is these holocrons that Temin was stole from the crime boss Nuat, is information on all the bad Empire dealings, and he and so Admiral Akbar basically says, okay, well, you guys work together well on Akiva, so here, go do this whole thing about finding Imperial war criminals. And it's like, okay, I'm going to send this 15-year-old kid, this bounty hunter, this Imperial defector, this Y-Wing pilot that only started flying Y-Wings right before the Battle of Endor, and before that only flew transports, and this random commando guy who literally never met any of them ever before. Like, they didn't work together. He just happened to survive on Akiva, completely separate from them. It just, it just didn't make much sense about the ending. I get that this whole book was nothing but a setup for Life Debt and Aftermath. I get the feeling that in a couple weeks when we get Empire's End, it's going to be, that's going to be where Chuck Wendig finally stretches his legs and he can finally go, yes, I can finally tell the story I wanted to tell. And I'm not sure if he did the best job ever that he could have with setting it up. You could have made this its own story that made a little bit more sense. But let's see here. The good things that I liked, stupid little tiny things that I really liked, is that like they inserted some board games into it. Like Galactic Expansion is Settlers of Catan. Like, that's exactly how it works. It's Settlers of Catan. You've also got a form of chess, Chata Ragul, I think, is what it's mentioned, by General Shale. So I'm happy to see. I like Earth-y type things being put in, as long as they change the name and kind of change like the names of the pieces and the names of the terms within the game. That I'm okay with. It's just like blatant, hey, tea kettle or refrigerator. I don't necessarily agree with those being put in with Earth terms, but I like to get something that does bring me more into the universe and allows me to give me more of a connection with it. Let's see here. What else do we've got? There's tons of little connective tissue within the main story too. I know I mentioned in the spoiler-free review that there was a lot of connective tissue in the interludes, but like when Ray Sloan is given her promotion to Admiral, she's given a bottle of Lethalian wine, Lethal from Rebels. That's cool. I like seeing stuff like that. There's more. I know there's more. I'm wondering if there's a lot of Boba hints in this, like in the Dengar and Mercurial Swift episode interlude. They mentioned Boba Fett, and then there's also Boba Fett's armor is found on Tatooine in one of the interludes. I'm wondering if that was kind of meant to hint towards the now, we assume, canceled Boba Fett film that was supposed to be directed by the guy that did Fantastic Four, or Fan Four Stick, as people have been making fun of it, because WB or whoever, the studio, decided to basically change the entire movie on him. And then it got, what, a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. I feel really bad for that guy. But anyways, I'm wondering if, yeah, like I said, I was wondering if that might be, they were supposed to be little hints, because Pablo Hidalgo's been saying on Twitter for the past year that they're playing the long game. You're going to get tiny little connections from a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, like the Queen Geonosian from the Vader comic from a year ago. We saw her egg in Rebels like a month ago. Like that's really cool to me. Uh, Probably my favorite bit about this, the thing that makes it fun, is the lunacy about some of the action scenes. I already touched on Temin. That's the character that was doing it. Or he was pole vaulting from the top of the Satrap Palace onto the Imperial shuttle that was carrying his mother and the rest of the team away as prisoners. This is where he kind of finally realizes, hey, I'm being a little bit whiny, and I need to stop being like this. And so he pole vaults over, and that's ridiculous. Yeah, it's a 15-year-old kid going, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, and then he lands, and he like pulls a stormtrooper out of a window that pops his head out, and it's like, yeah, what? Okay, that's a little bit. Again, it's stupid, but it's great. That's just my point of view, I guess, on it. Another fantastic piece of nuttiness is Mr. Bones. Just in every single thing that Mr. Bones does, the droid is programmed with tons of different fighting moves and also some dancing moves and stuff. So he's slightly insane, and his vocabulary kind of speeds up a lot really fast and slows on down in the middle of ascent, and then speeds up again. And just the fact that he can take out like a whole like squad of stormtroopers is freaking amazing. And at one point in time, Temin and Sinjir are being strafed by a TIE fighter, and Mr. Bones jumps up into the air and cannonballs. Yes, they say the word cannonball. I'd prefer if he used a different term, just because cannonball is too earthly, because I'm a fanboy that gets upset over nothing. But he cannonballs through the windshield, or through the view screen of the TIE fighter, and then the TIE fighter crashes, and then he shows up like 20 minutes later, and it's great. Then Jazamari surfs, or not surfs. Yeah, kind of surfs. I don't remember the term of it, where you've got the rope and the boats in front of you or whatever. Water ski. Yeah, water skiing. She like water skis on the corpse of one of Surat Nuat's lackeys, and it's so ridiculous. I just see the Zabrak bounty hunter crowd surfing kind of jet skiing on the corpse of one of her dead enemies, and it's just ridiculous, but it's fantastically ridiculous and wonderful. And I know that some people didn't like that, but I adored that. I thought that was freaking fantastic. But anyways, I think, what are we at? We're at, Jesus, 18 and a half minutes. Oops, that was a lot. That went by faster than I thought it was going to. But anyways, like I said, guys, I think that even with the spoiler review, if you can, pick it up on Audible. It's a stupid read, but it's so great. And I guarantee you, I've already listened to Aftermath Life Debt. And I'm going to be doing videos about that next week ahead of Empire's End, and then I'll be doing Empire's End once that comes out. And I can tell you this much, that Life Debt is much better. It's a better formed book and just as much fun as this first book. So thank you guys for your time. I want to point out that you can always talk to me about this down in the comments below. I love having Star Wars discussions. That's why this channel exists. Share my story, and hopefully share some of yours too. So you can comment down below, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, or you can always check out my Twitch streams, which is also linked down in the description, every Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time here in the United States. So yeah, I guess I know I'm forgetting something, but whatever. I'll probably end up talking about it on Sunday on stream. Thank you guys so much for your time, and may the Force be with you.